Hey, Shalom Akim, Shabbat Shalom, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Akakwadash, the honors to the apostles and the elders word, millstone of teachings is truth, and citations to the sincere Akim and Akwath. Listen, may the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Okwai, and back in here with another quick and Lord's will is always an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a recap in regards to a conversation I was having with a so-called Christian, right? And this is, I want to just gonna touch on a couple points here and there in regards to the conversation, and because I didn't really write anything down for what we discussed. So, Lord's will is always Yahweh Rataza, that this lesson may be edifying, right? So, I was having this conversation with a so-called Christian, an Israelite, anyways, right? That goes under the guise of Christian, basically, and pretty much, you know, um, around this time when we had that conversation, you had, there's that situation with Trump, and in regards to what's going on in Gaza at the moment, and a lot of those so-called Palestinians that are basically being they're being forced out essentially, and now you have other nations kind of picking up the slack, right? So anyways, I remember the Christian this guy, remember, because I was at work, I was on the plantation, and he said to me, he was kind of like wondering like what's going on, right? So I don't fully remember everything that I said, but I remember asking him some of these key questions. Because he said he's a Christian and he has a friend that's a Muslim, right? And I asked him, I said, doesn't your pastor be doesn't your pastor know, kind of basically know what's going on in the world, right? Shouldn't your pastor be able to answer the questions that you're asking me, right? And he said like, yeah, yeah, you're right, but so I said, okay, maybe you should also ask your pastor, why are these things in the world happening, right? Why is there so much um war, in that land? Why is there so much plagues that are continuing, that are befalling the society, basically, that are befalling these these different nations, right? So, and he had a sentiment of like, okay, I understand what it is you're saying, and to further kind of push the discourse, I said, okay, listen, maybe you should also ask your Muslim friend, about what's going on. Maybe they should be able to should they be able to also answer these questions, basically, right? Because the scriptures do say, wisdom does make a man's face to shine. So people would kind of, with this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, people, when they would time to time will gravitate towards you, right? So in very covert terms, I answered his question, because there's a few Muslims that I work with, and then in covert terms, I said, a square peg should be able to fit into a square hole, and a circle peg should be able to fit into a circle hole, and I mean that parabolically. So I showed him a picture of that, and I asked him, I said, listen, maybe the square peg, um, and I showed him a picture of a square peg, and I asked him, "Is like, do you think a square peg can fit into a circle hole?" And he said no. And then he said, then I asked him another question, and I said, "Do you think the circle peg can fit into a square hole?" And he said no. And that was pretty much the end of the conversation. But pretty much, you see the type of you see there's no answers in these so-called other religions, right? So let me just start off in Matthew 24. So this is Matthew 24, I didn't want to get too long-winded, but I kind of just wanted to give you an understanding and show you that there is no understanding in these other religions. So this is Matthew 24, verse 3. And it says, "And he sat upon the Mount of Olives, and disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, what shall these signs be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" And it says, I want to jump down to verse 6, and it says, "And ye shall hear," Yahushua speaking, "ye shall hear wars and rumors of wars, and see that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginnings of sorrows," right? So this is one of the sorts of, you would never hear this precept. You would never hear this in the Catholic Church. That's why these people are so, especially our people, because they a lot of our people, they're in the Catholic Church, especially a lot of our women, I should say. They kind of turned, the Catholic Church into a bunch of harlot houses, and you would never hear this kind of understanding, you know, about, what's going on in the world in the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church doesn't, there's no prophecies in the Catholic Church. There is no understanding in the Catholic Church. There's no prophecies in Islam in regards to what's going on in the world. And then there's no understanding in Islam either. It's a very, essentially Islam is a carbon copy, and I say that very, very extremely loosely. It's a carbon copy of our traditions, because what they've done is basically taken some of our traditions and equated as their own. Like, just for example, the whole Ramadan thing. They've taken that, and they've they've taken that, but that goes back to our traditions when you go into Day of Atonement. But that's neither here or there. I don't want to get too off topic, but the point really is there is no understanding, and there is no in regards to what's going on in the world, and there is no link between the current events that are currently going on in the world and linking it to the Holy Scriptures. And that's where the understanding, and that's where the prophets come in, right? Is to provide and kind of link things and put the pieces together in regards to what's going on in the world, and linking it to the Holy Scriptures, and understanding that these prophecies are faithful and true, right? Because one of the things that you notice about a lot of these pastors, they don't speak according to the Lord's heart. They don't speak according to the law and the testimony. And as a matter of fact, let me get that quickly, because I think that's in Isaiah. Oh, not 5. I think it's 8. This is Isaiah 8, verse 20. "Into the law and the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them," right? So there is no light, there is no guidance, there's no understanding in regards to what's going on in the world in the Catholic Church. As a matter of fact, and this is what separates the scriptures in regards to what the scriptures say versus what all these other religions say. And this is Babylon, right? So Babylon has all these different sorts of quote unquote philosophies and ways of life, and all these different gods, and what companies maybe these different gods is different lifestyles, and so on and so forth. Everything you can get into is here and available and readily available in Babylon. Let's just be honest, right? So this is what sets the Bible apart, from these other religions. And this is what a lot of our people don't understand. This is Isaiah 34, verse 16, and it says, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord, and read. None of these shall fail, none shall want her mate. For I my mouth hath commanded, it hath commanded, excuse me, it, and his spirit it hath gathered them, right? So none of these prophecies have failed. That's one of the reasons the scriptures, the Holy Bible, is essentially a book that is set apart from these other um, books, so to speak, because it contains very key, important prophecies that have come to pass, that are coming to pass, and that will come to pass, right? It contains all these different things. And then you can find, I hate to say the word secular, um, but it also contains history. That's why a lot of these people that might discuss the scriptures, they try to discredit the Holy Bible, but the Bible is actually containing history of key figures that existed. It also contains empires, and then when you go into, for example, like Daniel 7, it gives you a succession and a timeline of different empires that came, rose up, crumbled, and fell, just like America. It contains also America, right? So, um, so going back into some of the details, you're not gonna find understanding in these churches. As a matter of fact, let me go to and that's is that Jeremiah. As a matter of fact, let me get Amos first. Okay, this is Amos 3, verse 7, and it says, surely the Lord Yahweh will do nothing, but revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophets, right? So what a lot of our people need to understand is, you're not gonna find wisdom in these temples made with hands. You're not going to find wisdom in these churches or in these other, quote unquote religions. These different, you know, um, you know, lifestyles and ways of life, right? You're going to find wisdom on the streets. As a matter of fact, let me get that. you know, this is wisdom. Sorry, Proverbs 1 verse 20, and it says, "Wisdom crieth without; she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates." Right. So that's a place where you would find a lot of traffic, a lot of business being conducted. This is where you would find wisdom. Right. You see, different camps. Starting with our apostles and elders, they've been on the highways and byways for many, 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 and teaching for many years, right? And this is where you would find streets, excuse me, find wisdom. You would find wisdom in these particular places, right? Especially in places, and that shows we're in a place where people will see us, but Jake essentially takes that opportunity to mock, scoff, ignore. Here and there, you might get somebody that cometh and repents, but that's where you would find wisdom. You would find understanding in regards to what's going on, in regards to the current events that are taking place on the earth, right? But it's also a snare also onto a lot of our people, because we're not dressed in a particular fashion where we seem like we know and have the answers in regards to what's going on. We're seen as an offscouring, and we're seen as people who essentially are crazy, right? That's just the way the Lord chooses, right? So a lot of people won't get an understanding of what's going on, because they're pretty much looking at the outward appearance. As a matter of fact, let me get this. This is 1 Corinthians 1 verse 26, and it says, "For ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh are called, not many mighty, not many noble are called. But the Most High hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And the Most High Yahweh hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty, and the base things of the world, the things which are despised, hath the Most High chosen, yea, the things which are not, to bring to naught the things that are, right? And that's one of the beauty of the way the Lord chooses. He didn't choose, your Kendrick Lamars. He didn't choose your Steve Harveys, your Jay-Z's, your P. Diddy's, or any of these people that have some sort of notoriety and fame in this world. He chose in the weak things, the downtrodden, the lame. He chose, people who are just regular, people. A lot of us come from, different worlds, so to speak, right? He didn't choose the top-notch guys, so to speak, the Bruce Waynes of this world, right? He chose, the lowly, right? As a matter of fact, oh, let me get Jeremiah. This is Jeremiah 3, verse 15. And it says, and I will give you pastors according to mine heart that shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. So let me go to that word pastor. Hold on, let me. Just bear with me. Pastor. I looked it up, but just to get a refresher. Okay, this is pastor. A noun, it says shepherd. It says one who has care over a flock or herd. It says spiritual guide, a shepherd of souls. It says a shepherd, to lead, to pasture, to set grazing, to feed, tend, guard, protect. And it goes back to this word pasture here, which is a noun, and it says land covered with vegetation suitable for grazing, right? So a pasture is a place essentially where sheep and cattle, cows, ox, they would come, they would graze and feed off the land, right? That's where you get the word pasture from. Pastor, I should say, right? And and our apostles and elders, they are likened unto, pastors that have the mind of Yahweh Bashim Shai, feeding us with this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of what's going on in these times. The pastors in the Catholic Church are not doing that. As a matter of fact, the Catholic Church, the pastors in there, they're not privy, to this, that wisdom, those prophecies, right? It's a lot of, essentially, it's just become, what do you call it? What's that game called? It's like musical chairs. That's pretty much all it is. It's not a place where you can get understanding, you can get answers, because we're living in a time where essentially there is gross darkness amongst the people, right? People see these things, but they don't have understanding of why or who's doing it, right? So it shows that we're living in a time where there's a lot of gross darkness occurring on the planet Earth, and people don't have a full understanding as to why these things are happening. Why is there so much turmoil in the Holy Land? So anyways, I didn't really want to make the lesson too long, but that's pretty much the point, because it shows that the Lord is not dwelling in these different places, and for people who are so-called Christian and you're an Israelite, it'll behoove you to get out of that, right, and come out of that broken cistern, right? Stop drinking from that broken cistern, because it's not actually feeding you with the understanding of what's actually going on in these times, right? So Anyways, I'll leave it there. But Lord's will, that was just quick, edifying, straight to the point. Just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.